on 102.7 on Hot Country Hits 99.9, as well as the Mama FM and the Hot Country Hits Facebook pages, and our YouTube channel, as well as your Amazon Alexa, your Google Home. And Sheriff Kim Cole on with us this morning. It's good to reconnect with you. We haven't had a chance to talk in a while.
It's been a while. It is nice to see your smiling face again. Yes, sir.
Same here. Let's talk about, we had Katrina Morse on earlier in the week, and with the NASCAR PSA and that initiative, and talking about National School Bus Awareness Week. We want to dive into that and see how Mason County is performing when it comes to the drivers. I will tell you this, though, and we talked a little bit about this off air, is that we'll also chat about some of the incidents that have taken place where we've had some high-speed chases in the area. And of course, that puts everybody at danger for, if that person is on drugs or trying to get away from, a criminal activity and so on and so forth. And so we'll chat a little bit about that this morning with Sheriff Kim Cole. So thanks for joining us for the next 10, 15 minutes, if that's
absolutely.
all right.
Thanks again for reaching out. It's always good to chat with you. I enjoy our time together.
Thank you. Let's see if I'll ask this question. Do we have a good report card when it comes to school bus safety in Mason County? What does that look like in particular?
Yeah, so we do have there's a lot of traffic interacting with our school buses every day. So when you look at the overall picture of bus safety in our community, I think it's really, really good. You can always improve. I would say weekly, if not every 2 weeks, we are getting a report sent to us where a car is going past a school bus with its flashers on. And one school district does have cameras on the buses that are approved for evidentiary purposes. Mm-hmm. So we can use that evidence to write tickets. We can use that video as evidence to write tickets on violators. So we do still get those weekly, or every 2 weeks. We are getting 1 or 2 coming in. Yeah.
Are you comfortable? Because I've always been curious about that, because it was maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when it transitioned from, obviously police can follow buses and see that activity that happens. But then the legislature passed the law that just the camera activity, the footage of the cameras was evidence enough without having an officer around that. Yeah. Has that worked out? What is that process like? Do you mind kind of diving in as much as you can?
Yeah. So what will happen is if a person drives past the school bus in violation of the law, in other words, the red flashing lights are going and it's clearly a violation, the school will email us the video, and then our deputies will go out, make contact with the driver. Most times a citation's issued. Mm-hmm. Sometimes a citation's not issued. If we can educate on that, we're willing to do that. But most times citations are issued, and most times as well, the offending person does admit that, yeah, I did it. I was in no man's land. Like you talked when we were on with Aaron, that, they thought maybe it was yellow and it was flicking to red, but no, it's we are writing tickets based on that. And when the legislatures did that, it became part of the law that we can enforce. So, yeah.
We see some of those videos pop up of the extreme side of things, which has drivers passing on the right side of the bus, sometimes between the kids getting on or off the bus. Does that happen here? Have you ever had an incident like that?
Yeah. Years ago, and I've been here 40 years. I hate to date myself, but I've been here 40 years. And before my time, there was 2 children killed out on a backcountry road by a driver that went around the bus on the right. So, they did it's interesting you bring that up, because they did a 1-day survey of bus drivers here in Michigan. I think it was last year, May. And there was over 2,200 documented cases where cars went around school buses, and of that, 35 of them, they went around on the right. So that's not good. That is not good.
Well, and I can only imagine that, if we were in your shoes and this, as you mentioned a few minutes ago, the school reports, hey, we had a driver, this is their license plate, or here's some footage of it. I mean, you're not going lenient at all on that if somebody is on the right side of a
No,
bus.
no, no,
Yeah.
not at all. I mean, that no, that's not good at all.
Well,
We're not going to tolerate that.
no, no, it wouldn't make sense at all. Has there been, with as much of the school bus safety, like we mentioned the NASCAR initiative, and this being school bus safety awareness week, and obviously Operation Safe Stop is going on right now. Have you, in the 40 years that you've been at the helm and working in law enforcement, is it getting better? Is it getting worse? Where has it changed at all?
You mean as far as people passing the bus?
Yeah, the
Yeah,
safety factors and the
yeah.
awareness.
Well, I think it's getting worse. I don't think it's getting better,
Mm,
Chris, because there's so many distractions people have now in their vehicles. They got their cell phones, they've got, kids bouncing around in the cars or whatever, talking on their phone, texting and driving. That's still a problem, and we get our guys out, and we'll do initiatives on like texting and driving. And it's incredible how many times we catch people still texting and driving going down the road. So I don't think I don't think it's getting better. I do think with the cameras that are on the buses, that's certainly giving us some enforcement leverage, and the bus drivers are doing a good job. The drivers in the schools try to minimize bus stop locations where it's going to be problematic interacting with traffic, like on US 10 on the 5 lane there, and 10 was a huge problem years ago before I was sheriff. We would line patrol cars up. We'd get 6, 7, 8 guys on overtime, and they would line up behind school buses, and they would stop cars on US 10 all day long.
oh,
So
wow.
yeah, it was something.
Now you have the Operation Safe Stop that's going on, and
Mhm.
it goes through this week, wraps up tomorrow. But again, it doesn't necessarily wrap up. I mean, you're
Right.
still out there, following school buses, seeing if laws are being obeyed and such.
Right.
What's this week been like? Have you had sort of a real time approach to it?
Our school resource guys obviously are out there. They're working the school areas around the schools when they're interacting with buses. Our deputies are out there obviously, still doing their thing, and we will obviously continue school bus safety as traffic safety in general. I know
Mhm.
you want to talk about the pursuits we had, and so that's part of our traffic safety initiatives as well. We are our guys are being aggressive in traffic enforcement, and we, whether you like it or not, we're still a community, a county, and a nation of law and order, and it has to be that way
Yeah,
because most people just want to go about their day and be safe, and most people do that, and we have to address those that choose not to do that. So when it comes to bus safety, texting and driving, drunk driving, drug trafficking in our community, we're going to have to address that, and we will address that.
absolutely. And I do want to ask you about that because, and some of the comments that have come in, as example, the post that we put up yesterday about yet
Mhm.
another high speed chase there. Before we do that, though, you mentioned US 10, and I think it's so important that we don't skip over that even on US 10, if that bus is stopping,
Right.
that that's a 5 lane road.
Right.
That means both sides are
That's right.
are stopping. Do we see that, or do you think that people are taking that for granted and saying, "Well, I'm so far over, I don't have to stop"?
I don't know that it's people taking it for granted as much as it's the lack of education, and that's on us, right? That's on us networking with folks like you in the media to get the word out. But yes, you're absolutely right, and I appreciate you bringing that up. If you are on the 5 lane highway and it's not divided, and US 10 between Scottsville and Ludington is not divided, it's not divided by a median strip or a barrier, you have to stop in the opposing lanes as well. And so we still do see that, not all the time, but it seems like if one or two go by, then it's the entire time that bus is on that particular stop that cars are going by, because people see one other car do it or two other cars do it, and then they just think it's not enforceable, and that's not the case.
Absolutely. I'm going to take a devil's advocate approach here for
Mhm.
just a moment. For the commuters out there, the drivers, um, Are they frustrated in any way with the bus drivers? You know what I mean? Is there anything that you hear from that standpoint that both groups could be doing better?
So that's a great point. And a few short years ago, yes, that was the case. There were some concerns about bus stops at intersections and what does a car do if they're perpendicular to the intersection and they don't see the flashing lights. And the schools have been really good to address that with the drivers, and those measures of correction have been made. So I don't think it's as a big issue today as it was maybe 4, 5, 6 years ago.
Okay, that makes sense. If you're just joining us, we're talking with Sheriff Kim Cole from Mason County. Sheriff Cole, we have had, well, before we do that, is there anything else in regards to school bus safety that's on your mind that we haven't talked about?
No, I just appreciate the fact that you mentioned, even though this is School Bus Safety Week, this carries on through the entire school year.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
appreciate that. We're gonna address that and continue
And
to
we
address that.
and we see school buses out during the day at various activities or field trips, and obviously evening you've got sporting events and other activities. So we really have to be on our game and making sure that we're obeying those laws, the school bus safety laws, all day long whenever we see those school buses. I think that's crucially important.
Yeah.
Do you foresee more districts putting those cameras in place? Does that help? Um, you know,
Yeah, they're the eye when we're not, right? So the cameras are the eyes when we're not there, and I think it's been effective in the school district here that does have it, and it was promoted really well. It was put out to the public through our media outlets, and so the public does know that the Ludington schools does have cameras, and I think the other schools are certainly looking at those options, and yeah, yeah, I think other schools should consider the camera options. It's an enforceable tool that the legislators have allowed us to have.
absolutely. Let's just a couple of moments ago we started talking about the high speed chases
Mm,
and so we have had, especially on the Mom FM Facebook page, we put about the recent one that happened, between 10 and 11 p.m. Just 2 nights ago out there, and majority of the comments why is this happening? Why is this elevated? There's so many of these. So frequently, we had the motorcycle just a few, less than 2 weeks ago,
mhm.
and we saw the video footage that you released of the Dodge, I believe, Charger running into the tree and
Yeah,
the chase happening there. Uh, I guess I'll just open it up as a generic question. Are you concerned with this, or is
yeah.
it just that these are coming more to light? What's your
Sure.
thoughts?
Well, it's certainly there's been an uptick in the pursuits. We have, like I mentioned earlier, we're a community and a county of law and order. We're a nation of law and order. Again, most people our guys interact with daily by far play by the rules. Our cars are passing people all day, every day,
Mhm.
and those people play by the rules. And the ones that don't should not be rewarded by getting away because they choose to take off. And we have agencies, across the state that have taken a stance against pursuits, and I understand that and I appreciate that. Um, However, if you don't address bad behavior, you're going to get more bad behavior.
Yeah.
And so I'm very thankful. I'm very thankful that the chases we had ended relatively safely. We had the one guy hit the tree, but nobody was hurt. Um, but we had we're sure it was a gun that came out the window. He threw the gun out the window during the pursuit. We got it on dash cam,
Mhm.
and we're getting drugs off the streets, and it's got to be. It's unfortunate, but I'm thankful that nobody's been hurt in the pursuits. And I will tell you this and tell your listeners this, that every time we are engaged in a pursuit, our command staff reviews the dash cam and the body cam videos, and we look at what went right, and we do look at what went wrong, and we make corrective actions to see that our guys are doing the things that are safe for them, and more importantly, the community and the person they're trying to get stopped. If we can use stop sticks to end a chase, if we can use a pit maneuver to end a chase, we will certainly do that. And sometimes it's just best not to pursue. If it's simply a traffic violation and you know who the person is and you can go get them later, we'll just address it that way.
Well, and that brings up a big part of that is that with a smaller community, you can identify. You obviously have, in most cases, have a license plate. You
Yeah.
can say, okay, let's, if it's in a dangerous area,
Yeah.
to stop that pursuit. But somebody brought this up the other day, and I think this is especially where you're going at is that with some of these jurisdictions outside of Mason County that have kind of chosen not to pursue. Uh,
Mhm.
that's probably increasing the activity of, well, I can get away with this.
Yeah, well, the motorcycle's a prime example. You know, the gal on the motorcycle, she came here from Arizona, and the first thing she said to the deputy was, "I didn't know you'd chase me. In Phoenix, they don't chase."
Wow.
Well, you know what? You're not in Phoenix.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and then another commenter had mentioned, and if you're willing to address this, is that with Scottville's police department no longer in existence, their
Mhm.
sheriff's department covering Scottville,
Right.
somebody said, "Well, that just kind of gives a little bit more freedom for that." Do you see that happening, or are you adjusting for some of that?
No, I mean, we still have, you know, a presence in Scottville. There are people that are upset about the police department disbanding, and I get that. I do. You know, I've always said my entire career, anytime you reduce the number of law enforcement officers in a community, that's not good for a community, regardless of the color of their uniform, whether they're Sheriff Brown, Trooper Blue, or City PD Blue, conservation officers. You know, we need a law enforcement presence in our community, and I strongly believe that. So I understand some of the anxiety folks have about them not having their own police department, but we have a presence in Scottville, and our pursuits didn't involve anything in the city of Scottville. You know, I would just remind our folks listening that, you know, when that apartment caught fire in Scottville, there were two sheriff cars there within moments that were extracting people off the balconies using their pickup trucks to do that. So
Yeah, I
um,
remember seeing that video of that
we're just, you know, we're trying to do the best we can with what we have, and what happened in Scottville was no fault of ours. I don't know that it was no fault of anybody's. It's just it's what happened, and it had to be addressed by the city council in Scottville. And whatever they choose to do, we have to respond to, and we're going to do whatever we can to make sure people are safe.
absolutely. And I know you don't have a magic ball, but in regards to these pursuits, is there preventable measures? Is there, and obviously, I don't want to necessarily go down a political road, but
Right.
certainly there have been the comments that have come in that says, "Well, a slap on the wrist," and so on and so forth. Is that hurting your ability to enforce law and order?
Yeah, you know, I'll say this, you know, I serve on the Michigan Sheriff's Association's legislative committee, and so there's some legislation floating around in Lansing right now. Whether it'll get traction or not, I don't know. The Sheriff's Association has chosen to support the legislation that would mandate minimum jail sentences for people that try to outrun the police, and I don't see that as a bad thing. I mean, if you know you're going to go to jail for 6 months if you try to outrun the police, then maybe that'll make you think twice about just take the ticket, you know. Or that's why we have a system in place through the courts that if you feel you've been not treated justly or you didn't break the law, you have an opportunity to go to court and plead your case. And honestly, that's one of the things that makes our country great is your right to due process. So exercise that and not try to take it out on the road where you're trying to outrun the police.
Absolutely. And the bigger picture of it all is that when there is a car going 100 miles an hour or
Right.
90 miles an hour in a 35 or 40 residential area,
Right.
that's dangerous, and people are concerned about that.
Right, right. Yeah. There are currently laws on the books that do specify enhanced penalties if it is a reduced speed zone. So, like in a 25 or a 35-mile-an-hour zone.
All right. Well, we appreciate all that you and your officers are doing, and we had the some of the commenters ask about the name of that individual. That arraignment is usually when the sheriff's department you release that information.
Right. Once they're arraigned, we're given the go ahead and release their names and that. So,
So overall, this morning, I'm glad that you and I were able to connect. I know you
absolutely.
get going here, but with safety out on the roadways, whether it be wet roadways like we're
Yeah.
experiencing today, or bus safety, or criminal activity, obviously that happens. We've always got to be a defensive and offensive driver out there as much as possible.
Well, and we got snow right around the corner. I hate to break that to you, but that's coming as well. So we need, we got wet roads today. They could be snowy here in just a few short weeks. So.
Well, we appreciate all that you are doing, and I'm hopefully confident that you and I will get a chance to talk on the air.
Oh, absolutely.
Again, and I know
Yeah.
you're getting ready to for the Senate push there, but I'll tell you, the community has supported you for a long time, and it's pretty cool.
Chris, this is the best job I've ever had, is getting to be a county sheriff. There's nothing that will ever be better than being a county sheriff. And this community's been so good to me over the years. I got 40 years here. I could have retired 6 years ago, but I chose to stay on because the community's been so good. So yeah. I appreciate the support the community's given us and myself, and of course you and our media outlets have been great to work with as well. Even when we got to address bad situations, the community's been well, and you've been well as well. So
well, we appreciate that. We will connect with you again, and stay safe out there. And
yes,
and thanks for connecting with us this morning.
Yeah, I always enjoy you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, it is. Yep. Thanks, Kim.